Hey guys, Andrew Pearl out of Renaissance Humans. You don't have the body you want, I'm surmising, because you clicked on this link. So maybe it's that you have more body fat than you want. Maybe it's that you don't have a good muscle definition, so you look skinny fatter, or whatever the case may be, it's not where you want it to be. So maybe you're trying to eat a plant-based diet. You've tried McDougall, you've tried Furman, you've tried Engine 2, a fancy raw food diet. Maybe you've cycled through all of them. And maybe you had success in the beginning. Maybe you lost some weight, but then you plateaued. Not good. Where do you go from here? So the traditional fix to this situation, if you're on a already on a healthy diet, is to play with caloric density and to play with the stimulation that your food provides. Studies have been very clear that people will eat more of a food if it's salted than if it's unsalted. A number of other spices and things like sugar and sweeteners seem to have the same effect. And similarly, the research is also clear that if you take a food and you water it down with less calorically dense foods like leafy green vegetables and cucumbers and spinach and celery, and you kind of make it less calorically dense, you'll eat total fewer calories because it's more filling. But and that those techniques work. I mean, that's how I started to lose weight. I used to be obese. I weighed 220 pounds, and initially I took things that were of higher caloric density out of my diet, and I replaced them with things with lower caloric density. And that's pretty much the extent of my initial changes with the addition of some exercise, and I lost, 30, 40 pounds that way. So when that stalls out, as it did for me, what are you left with? I think there's several answers, and some of them have to do with food, and I'll probably get back to some of those in another video, but let's today talk about mindfulness and its role in weight loss. So, a meta-analysis was released not that long ago, and they found that if you took overweight and obese people and ran them through a meditation program, they started to lose weight. Now, they compared these studies, the meditation studies, to a series of studies where they basically put people on exercise and diet interventions. And the people on the diet interventions lost more weight, which is not really surprising since, the the meditation intervention wasn't really telling people to restrict calories or, eliminate food groups or change your macronutrient ratio or eat whole foods or anything like that. It would just, meditate, practice mindfulness, and they lost weight. So the thing that I think is really important, though, isn't the fact that the meditation people lost weight, which though that is kind of interesting. It's that after the study ended, when people were no longer supposed to be, meditating, and after the exercise and diet interventions ended, almost immediately with the exercise and diet interventions, the participants started to regain weight after the intervention period ended. But the mindfulness group, the meditation group, they all continue to actually lose a little more weight. And meditation is kind of like meta awareness, and it leaks into all areas of your life. It is the most wonderful thing in the world because, as I've talked about numerous times in videos and articles, it stops the shrinking of your brain as you age. It makes your personal relationships, people rate their personal relationships, their romantic relationships as better, and find them less stressful and more satisfying when they meditate. And they find work life less stressful when they meditate. And sticking to any task, staying focused on things is just easier. It just leaks out into your life. Now, that's the broadest example of mindfulness because it is, it's not focused on one particular outcome. But a lot of the ways in which when I work with my coaching clients on how to get them to lose weight and stay to continue their weight loss long term, not regain it, is practicing various kinds of mindfulness. So how can we do that? Well, there's actually a number of techniques that I'll briefly go over in this video, but also there's a video in the show. There's a link in the video notes below, and I'll also put it in the corner at the end. talking about these techniques in depth. So one is you should probably meditate just to improve your life in general and maybe shed some pounds. I offer a free guide to that and talk about some of the easiest pitfalls that people that are like, I hate meditation. I hated meditation too until I figured out how to not suck at it and how to not have a view of it that made it a burden rather than a pleasure. You can check out a link there. But putting meditation aside, when you are making food in the kitchen, are you popping things into your mouth as you prepare the food? When you're eating, are you doing anything besides eating? This may seem like a random question, like who doesn't have the TV going or the radio going, or you're eating and you're reading a book or you're looking at your phone. These are normal things, but we actually have research that shows that it causes you to eat more food. So specifically, both books, printed books, and cell phone usage increases caloric intake at a meal by 15%, is a one recent study on the subject found. So when you're eating food, you should be eating food, concentrating on the act of eating. This makes you aware more of subtle cues that your body is giving you that you have had enough food. Also, you know, don't eat when you're doing other things. So when you're chopping and preparing food, you shouldn't be throwing things in your mouth. You should be chopping and preparing food. Wait till you actually are eating to eat and then just eat. And then when you're done eating, do the other thing. I suspect that a lot of people hate the idea of tracking calories. They find it like an aberration, particularly if they're coming from a plant-based perspective, because they see like a plant-based diet as this natural thing, and tracking calories, well, that's not in sync with the body. This is an artificial limitation on what I'm doing. The most important thing that I've ever done is developing an understanding of what enough is. And that has allowed me to keep weight off, probably been better than anything else. And there's multiple ways that I've done that. And I don't think there's one thing that keeps people from not losing weight anymore. I think there's multiple things, but gaining that awareness is so important. And so I think that at least for a while, and perhaps periodically afterwards, virtually everyone who's trying to lose weight and is having trouble doing it should just practice tracking calories. And that means getting a food scale, weighing and logging your food. And that's a pain. But it very quickly becomes not that hard if you get used to doing it. And more importantly, it will allow you to understand how many calories you're actually eating. I cannot tell you how many coaching clients that I have had over the years who thought that something they were consuming was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I just snack on this after dinner. It's not a lot of calories. And then they were like, oh, that was 20% of the calories I ate in the day. And I didn't realize I wasn't even mentally accounting for those calories. This is kind of how these things work. Become aware of what you're putting in the body. Track your calories. Use a tracking website like chronometer.com. It's free. And also make sure, if you're losing weight and you want to retain your muscle mass, well, guess what? You need to be eating enough protein, something I've talked about enough. And if you don't track what you're eating, well, then you're probably not going to really be able to hit the right target. So worth doing. How about intentions? Because I really divide things up between intention and attention. So we've talked about a couple attentions. How about intention? Because you may have a goal. I want to lose weight, or I want to be fit, or I want to have a better body composition. But taking that big goal and breaking it down into very specific daily tasks that you can do is where a lot of people fall short. If you know exactly what you're going to be eating in the day to hit your caloric window, and to know exactly what you're going to hit to take in sufficient nutrients to be healthy and enough protein to meet your requirements, things are going to be a lot different than if you have this vague idea like, I'm going to eat less, maybe, I guess. And similarly, if you're skinny fat, you probably need to put on some lean mass. You do that by doing strength training. When are you going to do that? how are you going to do that? What exercises are you going to do? What rep ranges are you going to do? Have a plan 3 times a week. I'm going to be here, do this thing, and et cetera, et cetera. And then on the other days, I'm gonna walk or run or sprint or, whatever the case may be, going to the gym, whatever, swimming laps, whatever, biking, whatever. Have a plan in place. The other really nice thing about planning is that if you have a plan and something goes awry, and if something always goes awry, you can modify a plan to keep it within bounds. But if you don't have a plan, you're more likely to just say, and just kind of go to the buffet and not really pay attention. And then afterwards you're like, well, I didn't do it yesterday, so let me just finish off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'll start again on Monday. And by then you've pretty much undone a lot of the benefit you've done. So knowing like, hey, I know how many calories that I was planning to eat for, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if I now just gotten invited out to dinner, I can think, well, I can modify my lunch and breakfast to actually hit my, the nutrients that I know are going to fall short and get the certain amount of calories, eat more veggies and more protein, less carbohydrates, and then have this probably unhealthy restaurant meal. If that is what you're going to do, account for those things in your planning and allow yourself to vary it. So I would suggest that the night before or the morning of before you actually eat anything, you should have everything you're going to eat planned out. You should put it in a calorie tracker like Chronometer.com. Do you have to do this forever? No, but it's probably a good idea as you're finding your footing and learning how to do this. If you are not somebody who is able to do this well, then you should take the extra steps. Become aware, become mindful of what you're doing. So these and more ideas are in the article, which I again will put up a link to in the corner. And I hope this was useful, and know that you can lose weight if you are willing to do the right things. It is not always simple. There's more than just mindfulness. There's certainly a lot of dietary things that you can do. I work a lot with my coaching clients on this. If you're interested in coaching, you can check out a link I'll put in the video notes below, and I hope you have an awesome day. See you later.